Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of In The Scope, and this is exciting today. I'm excited because not only do I have my usual buddy Caesar here, but I've got a special guest, a good friend of ours from across the state, Mike Drop, who is on the line with us. What's up, Mike?
How's it going, guys? Glad to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you
It's
here.
finally. We finally got him here.
I'm so excited.
Yes,
it's so great.
yes.
It's so great.
We wanted to get this man on the show for a while.
Oh, it's fantastic. All right, so we got Mike here. Awesome. So today I thought we would talk about something that just happened in the news, and it's kind of been going on, and it's kind of controversial, which, you know, we love, and that is the topic of euthanasia. So today we're going to put euthanasia in the scope, and more specifically, we're going to talk about Colombia, the country, where a man named Victor Escobar, who is 60 years old, so not even very old, has Friday night, he was legally put to death, and his rationale for it was a non-terminal illness. He had COPD, end-stage COPD, which, you know, is classified as a non-terminal illness, and after waiting 11 months while this was debated in the courts and everything, he was finally granted the ability to actually let that happen. So that's kind of where we are now. And then today on Saturday, a lady with ALS, which is also Lou Gehrig's disease, was also euthanized today, also in Colombia, after kind of these landmark decisions have come down. So Mike, we'll start with you. How do you feel about, well, first we'll talk about just how do you feel about euthanasia for non-terminal illnesses, especially with somebody who's only 60 years old?
Well, I don't find it to be that strange, to be honest. I've seen people that have suffered from COPD and ALS in my own life, and it's not a great way to live, and especially after a couple of years. It might be classified non-terminal illness, but the actual state of living and the condition that you have to endure doesn't seem to be one that's very conducive to a healthy lifestyle. I mean, being confined to a wheelchair and having someone push you around and have to bathe you and shower you while your mental faculties are still all there. I mean, I don't want to be trapped in my own body and watch it go downhill like that and just die after my respiratory system gives out. I don't like, how do you guys think about it? Yeah.
I mean, ALS is terrible. Like, that is, to me, honestly, that's like one of the biggest fears. You know, that's like one of the worst.
What's ALS again?
So it's like Lou Gehrig's disease. Because he was famously the Yankee player who had it, and so it basically is your body slowly becomes paralyzed. You're mentally still there. You're mentally still aware of everything that's happening, but literally the paralysis moves up through your body until finally, you know, it affects your respiratory system and you eventually die from it. And you're literally trapped within your own body while you can see everything going on.
Is that like what Stephen Hawking went through? Is it like that or
no?
Yeah. Stephen Hawking had a muscular degeneracy.
Is that what he had? Okay.
No, he had something that was it was a slow progressing ALS. They thought it was ALS, I think, for a long time, and then it got misdiagnosed because he survived for years. But it is sort of like that, but it usually happens on a much faster scale.
Oh no, he did have ALS.
Yeah,
okay.
But he had a case that lasted for 20 years or something.
Okay.
But it usually progresses much faster than that.
Right.
My boss had a brother, Brett, and he had it and has since passed away. But I remember being a teenager and seeing him like walk around with crutches and like have a limp and a slurred speech. And then within a couple of years, he was in an electric chair, and we had to go because my dad's a plumber. We went and fixed his shower so you could get a wheelchair in and out of it because he couldn't stand to get in a wheelchair, and they had to get like a handbar and stuff so his wife could bathe him in a chair and stuff, and he couldn't talk anymore.
I couldn't imagine. Like, I just literally could not imagine that.
So what are you guys thinking then? Like you think that like it's is this something that we should be accepting around the world? You know, like that. I mean, like,
where do you draw the line?
Exactly.
Where do you draw the line?
So let's start it off first here. Do we, as human beings, have the right to actually decide when it's over, when it's done? That's such a weird question, right?
I mean, because look at suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide is so frowned upon.
Yeah.
I mean, now we have euthanasia.
Exactly.
I
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? We got teenagers out there right now that are wanting to commit suicide, and we definitely don't allow that to happen. Then we end up putting them into like like therapy and all that kind of stuff right there. Uh, I don't know, like like, well, where is the line drawn? You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
euthanasia, like signing up for euthanasia is suicide, isn't it? So it's like, what is this? Is this just an acceptable suicide that we're gonna allow? What makes that suicide okay, but it makes it to where, like, someone else that wants to hang themselves or jump off a bridge, not okay?
Right.
Is it just the event, or is it the reason? Like, well, where how do you draw the line?
Right.
That's what my thoughts are. It's just, are we only gonna be like, okay, you can be euthanized if you're sick? Well, what about if you're mentally sick?
As many suicide victims are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think that whenever anybody has an argument, like, where do you draw the line? That's always kind of a hard one to pinpoint. I think for non-terminal illnesses like this, like we're talking about, for me, it would be things that either affect your physical, like ALS, or even COPD, like this other gentleman in Colombia. I can't recall his name, unfortunately.
Mr.
But
Escobar.
there we go. Well, it's a non-terminal illness and you can live with it for a great many years. The last few years of your life will be losing weight and having an oxygen mask and having trouble breathing and hacking up fluid from your lungs and basically drowning until it finally gets you.
And that sounds horrible.
It does.
I was going to say. So I would.
Why would you want to definitely sign up for something like that? You know what I mean? And that I guess that's where my point comes to, is just like as human beings, do we not have the right to choose when it's over? You know what I mean? Or do we have to put guidelines on that?
Yeah, I think if you have a disease that's taking your faculties from you, like your ability to walk, your ability to speak, your ability to bathe yourself, and like one of the last things you could do is the ability to be like, I'm done with this. This is suffering at this point. We also have rules against cruel and unusual punishments in the United States, at least. And so we wouldn't punish a prisoner to like 2 years of light drowning until it finally gets them. So
that's true.
Why are we making these people do it in cases of COPD or ALS or other things? There's a bunch of gray areas, and I do think that there is an age requirement as well. If you have no terminal illness or illness in general and you're young, there needs to be some sort of guideline about that. But
what do you think the age requirement should be? Because like I said, this man, and there's a lot of terrible conditions and diseases that affect children,
That's
so true. I mean, could a child make this decision? Could a 10-year-old decide? I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Do we even want them to decide too? You know what I mean? Like, and then also as a parent, it's almost like how do you decide, and do you even at that point have the right, even if you're their parent, to decide? I just want to keep my baby alive because it's my baby, but my baby's gonna suffer. That's a good point.
Where do you think the age limit is then, Mike? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't. You would have some knowledge about this, but you're more researched than I am on this topic. It was just brought to my attention. But in the United States, at least, children can't decide to have surgery by themselves until they're 18, can they?
Not as far as I know. No, you have to have parental.
So there's at least already a guideline insofar as that, where like a child can't go to a doctor and be like, I want to be put down and have it done. I mean, not that euthanasia is legal in the United States anyway. I just mean no medical procedure is allowed to children like that. There has to be some sort of parental sign off. Now, I don't think that we should be putting kids down, period. And so I don't, and if there's a terminal disease or something, I don't, this is getting into a gray area that really brings chill to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
so
I do think children have a faculty that they can understand morbid things if explained to them, and I think that we often sugarcoat things to children to protect them, but if they are suffering, then I think if it was legal, you need to have all possible avenues explained to them.
You see, like the more I think about it too, is like in a way, in the United States, we kind of already do euthanize a little bit, right? Whenever someone's in like a coma, how does
I
that
mean, we
work? And like,
stop
you
life
guys,
support. I mean, I don't know if I would call that, I wouldn't call that euthanasia because to me, like, euthanasia, you're actively ending their life versus when you stop life support, you're pretty much, I mean, it's the end result's the same, sure, but you're not doing anything actively. You're just withholding, you know, things that are keeping them alive. And you're just basically letting nature take its course at that point. I think is kind of the difference.
Yeah, one is medical intervention and one is just the ceasing of medical intervention.
Exactly.
yeah, right. So then it's also brings up the next question that I'm thinking of. So if how would you feel like, because this is what I feel like this kind of opens the door up to, is that you have a prisoner who is going to spend life in prison. You know, they've already been given the sentence, you know what I mean? Like, for sure, guilty and everything like that. They've been given life in prison, but they haven't been given the death penalty. Do you think that we should allow, or there should be an option for them to then just be to elect for the death penalty? Because I mean, like,
Yeah,
I think
if they're in there with no possibility of parole, I mean, and they have been proven without a shadow of a doubt, something like that, then yeah, and months, but there, and that would bring in though the mental stability of them in general. I mean, that usually is part of their trials anyway.
Because in my mind, I'm just thinking about what you said, right? And because I agree with it too, is that someone with COPD, and an ALS, you're not living anymore, right? Like that way of living is just so hard.
That.
You know what I mean? So like, as a prisoner, you have no way out.
I don't think we can put, and this is just my opinion. I wouldn't put ALS in the same category as COPD personally. I just don't. I don't view them the same. Like ALS is just a whole different thing. Like, I deal with people with COPD every day, all day, and it's not. I'm not saying it can't get bad, because it can, but it's not the worst thing. I mean, I'm not trying to be callous about it. I mean, COPD, it sucks. That's a crappy condition to have. So I'm not trying to be callous or downplay it, but I'm just saying I don't think it's anywhere near ALS. Like, as far as, I mean, if we're ranking, conditions, and I hate to do that.
So what do you think about people like I said around like that they're spending life in prison? What do you think of that? Like, should they be given an option? Like, hey, yeah, we'll give you the chair.
In my opinion, yeah, I think you should be given the option, because I'm not a big proponent for life in prison, because all that is, and again, this is like Mike said, this is a gray area, because like, I'm not saying that every crime is worthy of the death penalty, but life in prison is just a drain on the economy. It's a drain. It's just tax dollars. It's just, you're just now my tax dollars are supporting you for the rest of your life, when you no longer will be a contributing member of society, in my opinion.
And not to mention, I mean, like, let's say like if I was a prisoner given life, and like, let's say I was given like max detentions, where like I see sunlight an hour a day, my social interaction maybe just only be, is like super minimal, and that was my life every day. Man, cut me out. I'm done. Like, I can't do with that no more. You know what I mean? That's where and that brings up to what I was saying about how will we allow mental disorders to allow for people to be euthanized? And that's like, if I'm in jail, man, hey fellas, I'll tell you right now, if I ever go to jail and I'm spending life in prison, yeah, you go ahead and try to slip me a couple cyanide pills or something. Like, hey, cut me out. You know what I mean? That's not living.
Just like that standard. Guards don't typically carry cyanide. It's not part of the uniform.
I know that. That's why I asked for the homies to throw it over the fence or something. You know what I mean? Yeah, help me out.
I got you.
Help me out. You ain't gonna help me.
We'll get it to you in a conjugal visit.
But it's because there's no way of living it, and like I think I hear Mike drops point of like, if you have to slugging around slugging around in an oxygen tank and like having that almost your life is limited because you just can't do too much anymore. You have ALS and like now like your body isn't even able to function. Like you're literally looking at life through a window, and that window being your fucking own eyes. You know what I mean? Like that sounds horrible. That sounds fucking horrible. Hey, and even if I was in a coma, what kind of living am I doing there? Cut it out, cut me out. I'm out.
I have a fear that if I was in a coma, like they would pull the plug and like I would have woken up the next day. That's just my luck. I feel like that's my luck. And then it would be like, if y'all would have just did it one more day, he would have just came up out of that. I feel like that's my luck. So,
and that's what's crazy too.
Day late and a dollar short.
Exactly.
To catch up on everybody's points, no, I don't think COPD and ALS are the same, and but I also think that anybody with COPD who is going to be pushing to be euthanized is someone who is gravely affected by the physical aspect. I don't think anybody hearing the diagnosis of COPD is then immediately going to the court and being like, okay, I want to die tomorrow.
Oh,
right. I think it's someone who has suffered with it for years and is now tired of the fight who is then giving up. That's at least in my estimation of what would happen. And the thing is once you open up the law to it, then anybody who does get diagnosed can go do it, and that is where the legal loopholes must be closed if possible.
And that's super scary.
But we'll figure out something when they finally catch you of the crimes.
When they finally catch me, hey, chill out, man.
No, I just think that people in general should have the right to do things more than they do. I don't think the government should be taking as many healthcare laws as they do. I don't think they have as much of a right to govern what you do or do not do with your own well-being. But considering euthanasia is medical intervention to end life, and pulling the plug is the opposite, what is the fact that we just deny healthcare from a lot of people that are broke in general? I mean,
right.
That is another way of euthanasia, is just the fact that there are people suffering with curable diseases all over the place that we just don't allow the medical care. I mean, this gets into a whole other topic, but when we get into things like the EpiPens,
like fucking like super stupid expensive, right?
Well, yeah, as I say, when the EpiPen price skyrocketed, it's like, allergic reactions is something that is completely and totally manageable. But if you're allergic to something that is prevalent all over the place and you're constantly suffering from it and stuff like that, and you can't afford EpiPens anymore, I mean, that's its own sort of medical hell, isn't it? That's
a gamble every time you go outside,
right? Yeah.
Like, oh shit, is that a bee?
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. It's a tough. This is very tough, and now that it's legal in certain places, like I don't know.
I'm scared because if this happened in Colombia, like how much longer until other governments start thinking like, maybe they might be onto something here.
This is a battle that's been fought for decades since Kevorkian was prevalent for pushing for people to kill themselves, and I mean that's a blunt way of putting it. For euthanasia, for the ability for one to end their own life when they deem fit. And if that's the only faculty that you have left, you think, after suffering from kidney failure or some sort of organ failure, and
and not to digress too much, but when Mike, you brought up a good point when you're like, the government telling you what you can do with your body, and I'm not trying to go into the abortion territory, but that's just when you said that, it made me think
no, that's exactly what it is too. I agree.
Right. I'm just like, and I'm trying to like figure this out in my own head. And it's like, I almost feel like I have a problem to some degree with euthanasia as far as like this 60-year-old man with COPD goes. I mean, I'm not trying to tell him that it was I'm not trying to put my opinion on these people because they have to, it's their decision. They have to do it themselves. But I consider myself to be, pro-choice. So I'm just trying to figure out in my own head. It's like, why am I pro-choice when it comes to a woman's body as far as her making the decision to have an abortion? However, I have I feel like I have issues with this 60-year-old man who wants to have
Right.
euthanasia for COPD. And I'm like, I
Depending
shouldn't have
upon
different problems. Like those seem like the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
yeah, depending upon when your definition of life being conceived as, those are both medical interventions that end it in
Right.
some fashion.
So
But I agree with
life
you
that
that,
hasn't
I'm
begun
pro.
versus life that's basically almost over.
But 60 isn't almost over either.
No, I
I
know,
mean,
but
60 is the new 40.
Yeah, I know, but 60 with COPD may not. You know what I mean?
I think that my job was exactly right. Is in my mind, life. Just in my mind, life is birth. That's. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm for late term abortions either. Maybe it's not birth. Maybe it's a little before that too. In my mind, I haven't really have a clear cut. It's very difficult. It's very gray. It's a very gray area. So like, not to, go on abortion, but it's people wanting to do what they want to do with their own body. And I just don't want someone to make a mistake.
And that's the big thing too. And that's what I'm saying is like, this could possibly open up the door to people making huge fucking mistakes here. You know what I mean? That's just what's super scary about this whole deal.
Like 21-year-old with depression who wants to be euthanized because they don't feel like they're going to ever get over this depression.
Exactly.
When it may just take some antidepressants, and then they go and get euthanized.
Because I think they would have to have much stricter guidelines for any sort of mental illness than they do physical illnesses. Physical illnesses, if you can measure lung capacity and the diminished rate and the fact that they've lost, what percentage, or you could find a law, there has to be a line because it's a country and we are a country of laws and everything has to be on a book somewhere.
I just hate the idea of like, hey man, so check it out. You got this condition. You're not going to die from it right now. But you have to fight until you get to that point to where you're definitely going to be dying, and then you can end it there. That sucks, man. That's like that just the thought of that kind of sucks. It's like almost like thinking like I said. So what about a guy like with like AIDS or like HIV? Like you're inevitably going to die from that, right? But
let me bring this in a completely different direction a little bit. It's same topic, but I have some questions for Big Oak about this. Are people aware that you have a medical background on this podcast, or is that something you're going to edit out?
Not. I mean, I really don't try to bring that up because I don't want that to, to sway anything. And then I don't want people to take what I'm saying as medical advice either, because I'm not here to offer medical advice.
Yeah, I'm not putting what you do or don't do, but I'm just saying that you have worked with people in the medical field in the past, and that you have a better understanding of their, day to day. So my question would be, if they did legalize euthanasia, what would that do to the mental stability of the people in the medical field? Who's volunteering to be the doctor or medical professional that is now in charge of putting people down all the time?
Well, you know
what I mean?
Yeah,
that's not something I want to throw on the plate of a bunch of overtaxed people in the medical field right now, as is anyway.
And I think it would come down to it would have to be a voluntary thing. Like nobody should be assigned that role. And that two things that I think of is one, doctors that perform abortions. Like no one's forcing them to perform abortions. They choose to do that because they believe in that. And then the other thing I think of is doctors that do lethal injections, for death sentences. No one's forcing them to do that. That's just, you have doctors and nurses that literally go around and that's their job is to perform lethal injections. So I mean, I think that there would definitely be people willing to perform that service. But I don't think it would be a mandation thing, and it shouldn't be, no one should have to go through that because like you said, the people in the medical field are stressed enough right now.
Well, that's basically more or less my question it would have to be somebody that is either located in a state, like one state has, every state has a location in the capital, and that's where you have to go to get it done. Or what I'm trying to say is you shouldn't be able to go into your local hospital and demand them do this to you.
Right.
I don't think that's a fair taxation to be putting on.
Can you imagine
anybody.
that? Can you imagine?
That's what I mean.
Can you imagine the day where like, how may I help you, sir? I'm just here to schedule a euthanasia appointment. What? Like,
I mean, we're getting into suicide booths and Futurama territory at this point.
you know what I mean? Holy shit. Like, it's just, and that's the slippery slope that I'm hoping that we just don't get into, to where it's just like now people are going to be arguing, you know, not for their lives, or yeah, for their lives. You know what I mean? People are going to be arguing of like, well, you euthanized him, but why can't you euthanize me? And, you know, like, you know, gray area barriers, you know, lines get drawn and then crossed, and it just sounds like a fucking, like a crazy thing, you know, to
Yeah,
open
but
up.
I think it also might, and this is a morbid reality of the world that we live in. But there's also the fact that if people did, let's say, opt out of life at some of these terminal illnesses where they keep having to be hospitalized and go back and get treatments constantly for some debilitating disease, that might open and help relieve our stressed healthcare. To be honest, it's a little bit sick to think, but I do know some other people in the medical field that have said, like, a lot of my day is based around a bunch of people who I see like once a week for this thing, and we have to hook them up to a machine, and it's either dialysis or something else, and they're miserable and this and that, and it's like, well, you've already signed up to be in the medical field. What other good could you possibly be doing than this? You know, is there somebody you could be?
Ooh,
That's
that kind of sent chills down my spine of a thought, you know, like someone coming around like, okay, so this is your condition. These are like, this is what can happen. There's also the option
Yeah,
that we just ended for you. And oh shit, you know what I mean?
it
Like
feels
that,
like we're getting on the verge of like a post-apocalyptic.
you know what I mean? Like,
type
that's just
world.
fucking crazy. It just,
It is crazy.
it's, oh my goodness. You know, like, I mean,
it's not a
what
fun
that
reality to live in.
what that
No,
what
it's not.
now that's what I'm saying. So like with this that happened, right, where that guy in Colombia got euthanized, is this a step forward for humanity? You know what I mean? Like, is this a step forward? And that's like my question there. Is like, man, like, is this a step forward that we want to be taking in, or is this a step backward? Like, hey, like we're going crazy here.
I mean, another thing to think of, to kind of pull back a hair, just another thought that I had is, what is a DNR other than a type of euthanasia? I know it's still medical non-intervention, but you're still signing a piece of paper where, like, if something does happen, I don't want you to save my life, even if you have the ability to do so, and it's right there. I don't want you to do it.
But see, I feel like that's still different because it's not taking an active role. You know, euthanasia, you were actively doing something.
No, but on your side, on the medical professional side, but as a patient side, that's still me making the decision to end my life by signing a piece of paper.
But it's
You know what I mean?
making
That's
the
still me
decision to
deciding,
let
like,
nature take its course. That's how I see it.
yeah, that makes sense. But I guess on my side, it's the decision that has been made in that person's mind, where if I am suffering from something, or if I go under anesthesia, or something happens, or yada yada,
Just let it be.
just let it be. Don't try to bring me back, even if it's, I don't know what percentage of people with DNRs could be saved. That's but
Oh yeah, and
I
you
imagine,
would never. I mean, how would you know? You would never know.
yeah,
You would never know.
but there are some.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But it's not just about. I mean, it's also a quality of life issue too. Because when you have a DNR and you're asking, do not resuscitate me if I, go into cardiopulmonary arrest. Don't do anything. CPR itself is traumatic. First of all, you're breaking ribs. You're causing. You're causing a lot of pain, and especially in elderly people who are typically the ones who have DNRs are either elderly or chronically ill people. You're just. To me, it's just you just asking not to be put through everything that comes with being, everything that comes with trying to be saved, whether that be, the actual CPR, intubation, going in and out of the hospital. And but I definitely see the parallels between that and euthanasia, because you're basically saying, like, stop, like, like hospice care. When you go on hospice, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done going to the hospital now. Like, I've been back and forth to the hospital for the last year for this. I'm done going to the hospital. When it's bad enough that you would normally send me to the hospital, instead, just start giving me pain medication.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Keep me comfortable.
now help me out. That happens now?
Hospice?
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
sorry guys, but Caesar here is not at all in tune with the medical field. So
Yeah, whenever
this
whenever you get hospice care and you're put on palliative care and you're you sign your DNR, you're basically saying, I'm going to get bad, and when I do, you would normally call 911 or somebody to the hospital. Don't just keep me comfortable. Whatever that means to keep me comfortable. If that means pain medication, if that means, Ativan, if that means oxygen therapy, whatever non-invasive thing you can do to keep me comfortable until I pass away.
that's euthanizing.
Well, that's hospice.
Yeah, it's
You know what I mean?
passive euthanizing. It really
You're
is.
euthanizing people. You know what I mean?
But you're not actively doing anything to kill them.
No.
You're just not doing anything to stop it.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's the difference.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah, okay, that's watching someone bleed out. Okay, that's
yeah, kind of.
you're like I could stop this.
I
but
could
I'm not
stent
going
this
to.
shit.
But see, a DNR
But-
doesn't stop you from stopping someone from bleeding out. Like, for
Okay,
instance,
but
if
that-
somebody's
but-
choking,
but
you can
we're talking
still
about the
save them.
morality of it. We're not talking about the legal
actual, right, you're right.
standings of what is and isn't a DNR. I think we're talking about the
Effectively,
morality
yes, you're watching
of
someone
whether or not. Yeah,
That's crazy. That's crazy.
it is. And
I'm just glad that option's
so-
out there. To be honest with you, I feel a little relief. It's like, oh, so hold up, I can get old and get bad, and you're gonna give me some pain meds so you can numb it a little bit and let
Give
my
you some great pain meds.
let my great journey go smooth.
Go on to glory.
Oh,
It's
By the time you're in hospice, Caesar, I wouldn't imagine that they don't have a bunch of other drugs that are going to be, they'll just plug you into a VR headset and you'll just live on an SAO for eternity.
that's the dream.
That it did come out this year, 2022. So we got something to look forward to this fall.
What came out?
Sword
this
Art
year?
Online.
oh,
Okay.
I can't imagine though, given the fact that we do have hospice care and we do have DNRs, that it's how much, and we do have legal abortions early term in this country. What is the stretch for euthanasia?
right. Like that's it. It doesn't. It's like hearing this now. It sounds like it's not. We're not too far off from actually making this an actual thing in the U.S. If I know that I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer, that's death, right?
Not necessarily, probably. There's a lot of things that go into cancer treatment because there's you can say stage 4 pancreatic cancer, but there's so many more specific things than just that, as far as the type of cancer. Has it metastasized? Has it moved to other organs? Are we talking about multi-system or is it just located here?
But I mean, if you have a like you have terminal cancer though.
Okay.
You have terminal cancer.
So are we saying treatment has been explored, tried, and has failed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go that route. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So, yeah, why? But we won't. So treatment has failed, and right now in this country, we won't allow them to be euthanized. Right?
No, we'll put them on hospice, and we'll say when it comes, we won't try to save you.
And give them
That's the best we can do in this country.
and give
right
them
now.
enough medicine to make them feel like they're riding on a lightning tiger.
Right. Give you
On the way out.
dope you up so you won't feel it. And when it comes and it happens, we won't try to save you, but we're not going to end it early for you right now.
That's crazy.
That's where we
That's
are
crazy.
right now.
Let me go to a beach, fool.
You can
Let me
to a
go
beach.
to a beach and then end it. Let that be my last view. I'm done.
You're talking about like a mafia hit at this point.
You know what I mean? Fuck. Like it's like, hey, you have 6 months to live. You know what I mean? Like you have terminal cancer, you have 6 months to live. It's that bad. All right, cool. I'm gonna knock a few things off the bucket list. Hey, doc, I did it. I'm straight now. I'm
at the
at
beach.
I'm at peace. I'm at
Meet me at
peace.
the beach.
I'll be at the beach. Give me the shot.
Can I ask a dumb question that I don't know the answer to at this point? What is the style of euthanasia that we are all debating? That's the other question that I have. If as far as I recollect, we have a problem finding drugs to put people down through criminal methods in a way that is, quote, non-cruel.
Humane, right.
Humane.
How did
So
he
how
know
are
that?
we
That's
going to be? How would we be putting people down that's humane that aren't criminals if
So-
we can't put criminals down humanely?
Big Oak is looking it up right now, but so I mean, there's it. I mean,
There's a
shoot,
shortage of the drugs to kill people, basically,
Is there?
in the criminal. Yeah,
that's
and
what I'm
has
wondering.
been for a long time.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, isn't potassium cyanide like something like you could take and you're instantly dead or something like that?
Yeah, but I think that it's probably there's a bunch of things that kill you instantly, but it might be painful, or you have a
Yeah,
sensation of suffocation or
Oh, I see.
something
I see.
before you go. It's
yeah.
supposed to
The
be
whole
like you
thing
put you to
is you
sleep.
just go into sleep, and it's a multiple drugs. So it's not
Yeah,
just
the
one
the
drug.
drugs,
It's
yeah, the
multiple
drugs you get
drugs that put
put
you
to
to sleep.
sleep with, as far as I know, is like there's like a paralytic that makes like your muscles and everything go away, and then like something that makes your consciousness fade, and then something that finally stops your respiration.
And
But
stops your heart. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm not sure what this guy in Colombia actually like. I would assume it's some form of quote unquote lethal injection. I mean, they're not going to do a firing squad for euthanasia, so I
well,
would
that's kind
assume.
of
Well,
my
I'd hope
my
not. They might
point.
miss, bro. You know.
That's kind of my point. Is I don't know what lethal injection could be found in such quantity that you could legalize it for use over a country as large as the United States.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. A lot of the trouble with prison death sentence, lethal injection comes from. I mean, there was a shortage on the drug that did happen, but a lot of it comes from like people making cases against drugs. You know what I mean? Like people trying to get off of death row. So they'll say, oh, we're suing this drug company because that's not a humane way to die because it was shown in a study that this drug could cause this. So I don't think you're going to have that same opposition in the euthanasia world, but I mean maybe
Oh,
you
well, that
would.
makes
But
sense. I mean, that makes sense that there was a legal fight from people on death row against the drugs used to kill them.
Because I mean, shit. Because
yeah,
I'm thinking about like getting fucking injected with drugs to die. Like, fuck. What if I just like overdose and like overdosing sounds like fucking hardcore the way to die? I'm gonna die of suffocation, ain't I? I'm gonna fucking like throw up in my sleep and choke on my throat and fucking like pass out and die. Sounds horrible.
overdosing is horrible.
That sounds
uh,
horrible.
It
yeah,
is.
there's a slightly horrible and dark stand-up comedic bit by a man named Doug Stanhope, and it's basically on this topic that is his mother suffered from COPD, I believe, and emphysema, and was drowning. And after years and years and years of fighting it, called her son, the comedian, was like, "I want to die. I don't want to do this anymore." And he's like, "Well, hold on, don't grab the gun or anything. We're going to figure this out." And the rest of it is about the fact that she just saved up 90 morphine pills and took them and went out on her own because she couldn't stand being trapped in this body anymore. And it's a horror, and it starts out with, "This is the only thing I've ever had to have a statute of limitations for assisting a suicide before I could tell on stage."
That's
And
and you know and when it's put like that, why couldn't we help her out? Why and in the way of like letting her go in a more comfortable
yeah,
way.
yeah, instead of doing it on a couch in her
You know what I
home.
mean? Like that just
Yeah.
sounds horrible for her. You
It
know what I
does.
mean? That
It
sounds horrible for her.
does.
And I wouldn't want my loved ones to go through that. So like, what?
Yeah.
I guess it does bring to the point like maybe this is a good step towards humanity to try and help these people. But it's just a slippery slope is what it
It
looks
is.
like. It's
I think
we
when you
can't
get to
even
things like this, there
figure
are
out
no definitives.
who we should and who we should not sell a gun to, and here we are going to try and figure out. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
who's capable of choosing if they want to end their life or not? It's just
Well, we can transition into the gun debate as well, but I think that ship has sailed in the national opinion, but I don't think that, I think you could convince people that if the loved one is giving up after this kind of a battle, and I don't think it should be legalized for, obviously, youth, or for people that are only suffering from mental illness without, bunch of other medical interventions, or even period. That's the mental illness would be a slippery slope that I don't think we
For
should
sure.
really crawl into as a nation. But if you have an illness that is debilitating you physically in some way, I don't know that many people would push for it after no symptoms. But if you're fighting something for years and years and years, and I had a friend, and what was the gentleman I went to college with suffered from, I think, cerebral palsy, and at some point it's going to catch up to him. And while no one would say that he needs to do it now, and I hope he's alive and well and doing great things, I don't want to be the one that tells him he has to lose this fight to time.
Right.
You know,
I mean
that's
it
not a
just
great way to be
right, and that just
trapped.
opened. I mean exactly, and like there's just so many other different things. Like oh man, like there's so different questions that even pop in my head too. Like what about someone who gets like who has like mental degradation from like what there's like one boxer who got hit in the back of the head, right? And then because he got hit in the back of the head, and then his coach just said that he can keep fighting after the fight, he ended up being basically like he had a disability at that point, huge disability. You know, like different. He couldn't. You know, he just wasn't the same guy anymore. You know, could we euthanize him?
You want to?
No, I'm just saying. What if he chose to? Hey,
That sounded like you were putting people up for this.
You know what I mean? Like what I said. I'm just thinking, if that was my loved one, you know, like, what do you want to do about that? You know, like you just saw your loved one who's like, you know, everything's okay, and then now all of a sudden, like he can't function right, nothing's the same for him anymore. His quality of life has, you know, been half like that. You know?
I think Mike Job said it best that we're a country of laws, and somebody's gonna have to make this. Like when it comes up, because it's eventually it will. I don't doubt it. It'll come to the United States. As far as it being legal. And when it does, somebody's going to have to make the determination, the decision that says we can do it for this, but not for this. Mm-hmm. And that's going to have to happen. And I don't want to be the person that has to make that decision, because that is a tough decision to make. And I guarantee it goes to the Supreme Court when the decision's made. But until then, I mean, it's tough. And I guess the hope is that maybe we just figure out the cure for some of these things, and we don't have to deal with, you know, too much longer
that
the
is
euthanizing.
That is such a great point. Such a great point. That if this becomes legal, you know, like what I mean, oh man, I'm just thinking about like if I was a scumbag doctor that didn't want to have to deal with a patient anymore, but now euthanasia is legal now. It's like, hey, bro, you know, like that just sounds so horrible to have it. But you know, this world is so disgusting sometimes. Like that's the kind of shit that could
put it past some people.
That's the kind of shit that would get brought up. You know, it's just like some scumbag doctors, like, yeah, like I could go through a whole bunch of shit and the loops and the hoops and jump with you and all that, but we can just end this shit now.
All right,
you know. People are...
Yeah, they could definitely paint it in a picture as to be more appealing or needed than
that, or like,
necessary.
you know, or
and then
stop.
What if insurance doesn't cover it?
Oh,
and you have to pay out of pocket for this? Can you imagine the doctors that are going to be raking in on this? You know,
I gotta pay to kill myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, and then like, what if it like also like deafens like the research on some of these things? It's like, nah. Why do you want to look in curing some of these like terminal illnesses? We could just kill. They just elect to kill themselves anyway.
I agree, but this is also a nation of laws and a nation that prides itself on being the freest. I mean, I don't know whether or not that's true, but like limiting decisions, even if they are medical, I think is lessening your freedoms. You should have the freedom, if you're suffering, to be like, I'm fucking done with this, and I want some help from you guys to end it.
Right, and then but I said you get enough. Manner. But that's but I said to my point is a second ago. It's like you get enough of those. You know what I mean? Like here I am trying to research, you know, the cure for COPD, and it's like, man, they're just killing. They're just euthanizing themselves. What, you know? I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop looking this shit up.
Work on something else.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on something else because you know what? They're just gonna kill themselves. I'm done.
There's so many.
Well, the research is all based on where the money's at. So as long as there's still money and people that would want to have a cure instead of dying, and I think there would be, then I think there'd still be research going on.
Sure, damn hope so.
Right. You know, there's always somebody that would want to be fighting it, and there's always, you know, foundations and things like that. I mean, to be honest, I think that the medical field is always in such a competitive. Those people that are in research, they're always going to find something. I mean, it's not like they're just going to be like, oh, people are killing themselves, I guess I'll just retire and
exactly
do Sudokus. That's because people like the challenge of this stuff, so that they'd find something to do. And there's 1,000, like every time we turn the corner in this conversation, there's another disease that we can name that is horribly debilitating in its own right, that you're like, yeah, no, that definitely sucks enough to be feeling trapped in. I don't wish that on that's something that if it's something that you wouldn't put prisoners through in a civilized country, why are we making our civilians suffer through the same circumstances?
That's a very good point. I agree. I agree. It's I mean, in the end, this is a very, very, very difficult situation. Like I said, I just don't want to be the person that has to tell somebody yes and somebody no, because that's a hard thing to do.
But I'll put on record now, fellas. I will put on record now. Hey, cut it for me. Cut it for me. All right. Hey, you look like your boy looking weak. All right. Look, I like if this brown skin starts fading. You know what I mean? Just I'm looking disgusting. Just end it for me.
We already know how this goes, Caesar. I remember the conversation where as soon as they invent auto mail arms, like in Full Metal Alchemist, you're definitely cutting one off because you don't like that flesh and blood weakness.
Exactly. And I'm cutting my legs off too, so I can be a little taller.
Oh my god.
How this is off topic, but how long into that would it take to make you feel comfortable in this? If euthanasia was brought up as a legal doctrine, how long would it take for you to feel comfortable if somebody in your family did this? You know, how long until you didn't fight it? That'd be my question overall. As a nation, how long would we fight this if our loved ones all started pitching in the towel? I don't know that would be something we could all suffer through.
That's a good question, because I mean, you can say what you want to say about anything, but until it hits home, that changes everything. No. So, I mean, that's definitely a good point. Like I said,
this would be litigated for years.
Oh, for sure. And I want to be a supporter of this under the right circumstances. And I mean, we are going to have our idea of what the right circumstances are because of our own experiences and who we are as people. So under, as far as my opinion goes, I want to support this under the right circumstances. My right circumstances may not be everybody's, which is the whole debate of the whole, the whole fact. So, I mean, we'll definitely have to see how it goes, but it's going to be a tough decision for somebody.
That's a tough one already,
Yeah, but who do you trust to write up the law in our government to get it correct?
Nobody that's there now.
That's the problem.
That is.
This is all great in a rhetorical sense.
Who do you trust to make the decision for you? You know what I mean?
That's why you have a living will. You should get advance directives, get a living will, so you can make the
great
decision
advice.
yourself.
Yep, that's great advice.
Make the decision yourself while you still can, because you never know when you'll no longer be able to make that decision. That could happen tomorrow, and somebody needs to know. And also, a side of it that people don't usually look at is when you have those advanced directives and living will and stuff, you are making it a lot easier on your family. Because
for sure.
Right. I see so many families struggle with, well, what would mom want? What would dad want? What I feel bad because I want to do hospice now. I feel guilty about it. Make the decision for them so they don't have to, wonder or feel guilty about it.
Now Caesar's on record for
I am on record
being able
in the scope
to just wipe him out whenever things get rough.
Yeah,
he's actually looking a little peaked right now. I'm thinking about taking him out.
People in the background are taking notes at the moment.
Yeah, your boy's comatose. Just pull it, bro.
But I mean, okay, like me personally, if I'm in a coma, I need y'all to give me like 5 years. I'm not gonna lie. I need at least 5 years to come out of that on my own.
Big Oak is just trying to wait until the singularity and he can upload to like some kind of machine.
Exactly. And if that happens,
Datter thinks it's like Jamie Kennedy and he's just going to be like, listen to some music and he's kicking it old school again. You know what I mean?
No, I'm just saying I need 5 years. And then if that 5 years, we get the thing where you could upload my consciousness to a computer, download me. Google me, bitch. Because I need some time.
I don't want to picture an internet that involves your mind floating around inside of it any longer.
Oh, I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great for everybody.
Oh shit!
It's gonna be. Can you imagine if Big Oak is the trial? Like now it's on record. It's like, well, guys, we just came out with the technology, and he was recorded as saying that that's what he wants done, and we're right at the 5-year mark, so we got to do it.
There you
Plug
go.
'em
If you're
in.
gonna pull the plug anyway, instead of pulling the plug, plug me in. That's all I'm saying, because I can't.
This is a new conversation now based on the horror movie where you take over the universe based on taking over like drones.
That's
all
what I'm
of a
saying.
sudden,
I
all the
can't
Predator
promise
drones.
I won't become Ultron, but I'll try not to. That's
Oh my
all I'm
God.
saying.
He's
I will
fucking-
do my best
Ultron,
not
my
to be
ass would be
Ultron.
Cybernet. That's what
Okay,
it's gonna
all
be.
right,
I might
Caesar,
be
you need to
Cybernet
get those
too.
fake. You need to get those fake arms now. You need to get those fake arms now. We got
I'm
a
just
super
saying.
villain in our midst.
I'm gonna try not to, but it's tempting. It's so tempting.
Oh God.
So-
Yeah, see, this is. I gotta say this last
Go
thing. Yeah,
ahead.
you'd be Ultron and you're against euthanasia, but if you got those powers, you'd be pulling the plug on all kinds of motherfuckers all over the place. So what's the difference at this point?
Well, the difference will be if you have some Avengers to stop me, and I don't think you do.
I
All
don't.
right. All right. So we'll do final thoughts. We'll do you first, Caesar. Final thoughts on euthanasia.
Final thoughts. I mean, like I like the idea of people having the freedom to finally like make the choice for themselves. That's such a, it's almost like it feels God given to me. You know, it feels like a God given right for me to choose like when like I'm done fighting. But it's such a slippery slope that makes it very scary because like someone's gonna have to make these decisions, like you said, and I hope someone makes the right ones because there's some things that I honestly you shouldn't be able to elect for euthanasia, but some things you should, and someone's got to draw that line, and but that's my thoughts though. Be able to give it to some of these people that are just really suffering and like have a very low quality of life now, but don't give it so fucking freely to where like now we have another 17-year-old kid shooting something up in Wisconsin. You know what I mean? So
Good point.
that's my
good
thoughts.
point. Mic drop.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I do think that it's probably a right that should be allowed in a country that prides itself on freedoms and the medical quality that we have. But I also agree that it shouldn't be for anybody of real. I don't think that our government should be into legislating mental lines, a line in mental stability where you can or cannot commit suicide. I think that's a place that this country doesn't need to step its feet into.
Mhm.
But as far as illnesses that affect the body chronically or your physical well-being, someone somewhere, like you said, is going to have to make that decision, and I'm glad it's not me, but I do think it's going to come at some point to this country. And when it does, I think it'll be a step in the right direction, but then that'll bring up the whole issue of who's going to be paying for it, and is insurance going to be covering it, and that's a conversation for a different day. But I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay. I have to say, I fully agree with a lot that you guys said, especially, you, Mike, as far as it being a step in the right direction. I think that, you kept saying, a country that values freedom so much, and this country does. And I noticed, unfortunately, that it only values freedom on certain topics. And I hope that this becomes one of them when it does make it to this country, because people should not have to suffer in silence, and people should not have to, suffer. We are one of the leading countries in medical technology and, and technology in general. And, we really need to try and figure out how we can help these people better to where, we can improve their quality of life before it gets to the point where they feel like they have to quit fighting. And if it, and I know technology can only move so fast. So, if people do get to that point before the technology gets to that point, I understand it. And I support them, and I want them to be able to make that decision for themselves. I just hope that we have the resources in place, the people that they can talk to, the professionals that they could, they effectively can know all the options, just have all the information, because knowledge is power. And I would just hate for someone to make this decision when there was another route that they could take. I mean, I hope that doesn't ever happen. I don't think it should happen or could happen, but I just hope that it doesn't. So, I just hope people are informed and we have resources available for people until hopefully as a country we can get to a time and a place where you don't have to struggle and give up a fight, and instead you can just, you can just get the help that where you don't even have to fight the fight anymore. That's my opinion. But let me say this was extremely just a great conversation. Having Caesar here is always just fantastic, good insight and good conversation. And having Mike drop here was a special treat.
I knew it would be good.
I really enjoyed it. It was excellent. I cannot wait to have you back for another one, and as many as you want to do. It's an open door. Stop on by any time because you are well informed and you have very good opinions, and I respect that.
Well, thank you guys. I had a blast, and anytime I'd like to be back anytime. I always like talking to you guys, and especially on conversations that are a little bit more serious than I will say I don't know what time you're publishing this in relation to your other ones, but the next time you guys do get into a anime versus battle, I'd be more than happy to pitch in if Caesar can't hold up his 1 piece end of the bargain.
Duly noted, and I'm definitely going to be hitting you up whenever we do our one for the NFL playoffs because we're going to do a playoff one here soon for the NFL, and you're definitely going to get a call for that one.
Well, you know who I got to be supportive of. Did the Steelers play tomorrow for a playoff? They're still alive, the Ravens. Technically.
Well, technically we're still alive, but there's so many things that have to happen. Teams have to lose. We have to win. Other teams have to win.
I don't know if either of you watched that Chief. I have to rep my Chiefs, and I don't know if either of you watched the game, but I'd like to say that's not our best performance, and that wasn't indicative of what's going to happen in the playoffs.
Well, we'll see.
But the Eagles looked pretty good.
Shut up.
They did. They looked pretty good. They had backups in the whole time. Hurts didn't play at all. You had Gardner Mania starting. That's not too bad. They did give. I will have to say that I did appreciate that they gave Jason Kelsey the opportunity to make like his 123rd consecutive start, and then they just pulled him out after a play.
Well, this was pretty much Big Ben's last home game, and it was emotional, but it's time. As much as future Hall of Famer. 100%.
I would love to talk about that. Let me know when you want to.
We'll be bringing this up for sure.
Oh yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. We have a NFL playoff one because we got one more week left. It's about to be playoffs, so we're definitely going to discuss it. You're getting a call about that, Mike.
All right, that sounds great.
All right, well, we're good. Another episode in the scope. Thanks everyone for stopping by. Be sure to catch us wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Drop by our Facebook page in the scope, and I'm going to upload this to YouTube too. So definitely check us out on our channel. Again, another thanks to Caesar, who's always with me here, Ride or Die, and Mike, special guest. Thank you for dropping by. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Had a great time.
Anytime. All right, and we're out.
See ya.